This lesson will give you a quick recap of variables. Then we'll learn about another way to use variables, which is to use them as references. You should already be familiar with primitive data types like int, float, char, string, and bool. Remember that int variables hold whole number values. Floats hold decimal values and are always appended or ending with the letter F. Chars hold single Unicode values, such as a letter or number or symbol on your keyboard. Strings hold words or phrases. And then bool variables hold only true or false values. Now, by no means are these the only data types that there are that can be used in Unity and C#, but in this class, these are the ones that you'll encounter the most. Also remember that if you add the public keyword to the front of a variable, then those same variables will show up inside of the inspector in the Unity editor. You're able to edit these variables as you are editing your game. All of these are primitive data types. They hold just a simple value. Moving forward. So what is a reference variable? A reference variable is a little bit different from a primitive variable in the fact that instead of holding actual data, this variable points to where an object is stored. And it allows you to control and modify that object. Here are some examples of reference variables. You can use reference variables to either make reference to a specific component that is attached to a game object or to the game object itself. So in my first example, I'm going to make a reference to just the sprite renderer. I want to be able to control the sprite renderer of this object. Remember that the sprite renderer is a component that changes the appearance of your game object. So that could be things like the actual image that is your game object, the color, the flip, the sorting layer, and the order in layers. All of those things are a part of this component. So if I wanted to edit that, again, the first thing I'm going to do is to declare this reference variable private so that it can only be seen in this script. The type is sprite renderer because that's the component that I want to use. And then my name in this case I'm going to use is also sprite renderer, just with a lowercase s. Now, when you have a private variable, there's an extra step that you need to do in order to set it up, and that's going to be to use the getComponent method. GetComponent allows us to find and use the components that are attached to the game object. So here we're setting up the variable, and here we're actually getting access to the component. So to do that, I'm going to take this variable name and then set it equal to getComponents. Now, the thing about getComponents, this method uses a pair of angle brackets. Inside of those angle brackets goes the particular component that you want to use, which is going to be the sprite renderer. And then directly after it is going to be a set of parentheses. And then my next step to actually make this work is going to be to either modify or use the component in some way. So again, I'm going to start with the name of that variable. And since I want to change something on that sprite renderer, such as the color, I'm going to add a dot notation that gives me access to all of the different properties. And in this case, I want to change the color. I'll set it equal to the keyword color dot, and then whatever color it is that I want it to turn. So now what should happen is when I go to my game and hit play, the color of that sprite should change to cyan. Now in this example, we used a private variable, but what if we made it public? If we make this variable public, then in this case, we no longer need the getComponents method, because now if we save this and then flip back over into Unity, we now have this field for the sprite renderer. And usually you can either click on this button out to the side of that field and select which object you want to get the sprite renderer from, or you can just take that component and drag it straight onto that field.